What unfolded inside the WWE arena was not just another wrestling segment. It was one of the most jaw-dropping reversals in recent memory. Bronson Reed, often labeled the underdog and dismissed after his crushing loss to Brock Lesnar, stormed back with a vengeance that left the wrestling world in stunned disbelief. Fans didn't just witness an attack. They witnessed a carefully executed statement that altered the entire perception of both Reed and Lesnar. The memory of Lesnar's brutality. 2 weeks earlier, Brock Lesnar had returned in trademark fashion, brutal, dominant, and merciless. His target was Bronson Reed, the Australian powerhouse who had been building quiet momentum. What happened that night was pure destruction. Lesnar tossed Reed around the ring with multiple suplexes, finishing him with his signature F5, leaving Reed flat on the canvas. Many thought that moment had ended Reed's rise, pushing him back into obscurity. The silent absence of Reed. In the weeks that followed, Reed disappeared from WWE programming. While the common assumption was that he was recovering from injuries, whispers from backstage suggested otherwise. Reed wasn't simply healing, he was plotting. He studied Lesnar's matches, analyzed his entrances, and carefully examined his ring habits. For Reed, this wasn't about blind revenge. It was about creating a plan that would expose the Beast's vulnerabilities. Planning more than just payback. Unlike many who fall victim to Lesnar's ferocity, Reed wasn't preparing to overpower him with brute strength alone. Instead, he focused on strategy and psychology. Lesnar had built his aura around unpredictability and intimidation, but Reed intended to turn that aura against him. By studying the smallest details, he found ways to outthink the most feared competitor in WWE history. The perfect opportunity. The stage was set on Monday Night Raw, where Lesnar was scheduled to address the WWE Universe about his triumphant return. The segment was intended to be a celebration of his dominance, another reminder that no one could stand toe-to-toe with him. But what Lesnar didn't know was that Reed was already inside the building, waiting for the right moment. Lights out, shock in the middle of Lesnar's promo, the arena went dark. At first, fans thought it was a technical issue. Seconds later, when the lights flickered back on, the reality hit. Bronson Reed was standing behind Brock Lesnar, ready to strike. What followed was less of a chaotic brawl and more of a calculated ambush. Striking with precision, Reed's attack was not the wild outburst of an enraged wrestler. Every move was deliberate. He targeted Lesnar's back and ribs, areas that would sap the Beast of his strength. Lesnar, usually the predator, looked caught off guard and unprepared. For the first time in years, he seemed vulnerable. The audience in disbelief. The reaction from the live crowd was unlike any typical WWE moment. Instead of the usual cheers and chants, there was a wave of silence broken only by gasps. Fans were genuinely shocked by the sight of Reed dismantling Lesnar with such focus and determination. It felt less like entertainment and more like a real moment of reckoning inside the ring. A psychological victory. What made the scene unforgettable was not just the violence of Bronson Reed's ambush, but the psychological depth of it. He didn't storm into the ring in a blind rage, flailing at his opponent like so many others who had tried and failed against Brock Lesnar. Instead, Reed carried himself with an eerie calm. He moved methodically, pausing between strikes, scanning the stunned audience as though savoring their disbelief. It was the demeanor of a man who had already won the battle in his mind before he ever stepped through the ropes. Every look, every controlled movement suggested Reed knew exactly what he was doing. He wasn't merely attacking Lesnar, he was dismantling the myth of him. For years, fans and wrestlers alike had believed Lesnar was untouchable, that his aura of invincibility was unbreakable. Yet here was Reed, disproving that theory not through chaos, but through chilling composure. A career-defining statement. The climax of the assault came when Reed scaled the ropes and launched into his devastating tsunami splash. Normally, a devastating finisher on its own, in this context, the move carried symbolic weight. It wasn't just about pinning an opponent, it was about rewriting the narrative that had cast Reed as a victim. The The sight of Brock Lesnar, a man so often painted as an indestructible force, writhing in pain while Reed stood tall above him, was an image fans knew they would remember for years. This was the type of moment that separates careers into two chapters, before and after. For Bronson Reed, this splash was more than a wrestling move. It was a declaration that he was no longer just another big man filling space on the roster. He had crossed into the realm of legends by toppling one. The power of preparation. What set this moment apart from other revenge stories in wrestling history was the preparation that went into it. Reed didn't simply wait for an opportunity and attack recklessly. He spent 2 weeks studying Lesnar's every move, analyzing patterns, habits, and routines that others had overlooked. His assault wasn't random, it was tactical. By targeting Lesnar's back, ribs, and legs, he systematically neutralized the Beast's power base. Each strike chipped away at the physical foundation that made Lesnar so feared. More than that, Reed exposed something deeper, that Lesnar's dominance relied as much on psychology as it did on brute strength. By calmly dismantling him, Reed shattered the illusion that Lesnar could not be prepared for or defeated with careful planning. It was a lesson to the entire locker room that even the scariest giants fall when someone studies the cracks in their armor. A shift in the locker room. The fallout from the moment extended far beyond Reed and Lesnar. For years, Lesnar's reputation had created an unspoken fear in the WWE locker room. Superstars knew that once you stepped into the ring with him, the odds were stacked against you. His power, his aura, and his reputation combined into something almost mythical. But after Reed's calculated dismantling, that aura was cracked. Suddenly, Lesnar wasn't untouchable, he was beatable. Other competitors began to look at him differently, realizing that the blueprint for survival and even victory might already exist. Reed's shocking stand gave voice to a truth many had been too afraid to believe. Brock Lesnar was human. That shift in perception, subtle as it may be, changes the way every wrestler approaches him in the future. Reed's calm. After the storm. As the dust settled and Lesnar lay broken in the ring, Reed didn't scream, boast, or bask in the crowd's approval. Instead, he reached for the microphone with the same chilling composure he had carried throughout the attack. His words were simple, but their impact was profound. Lesnar thought he could break him, but instead, he had awakened someone stronger. The statement encapsulated everything the WWE Universe had just witnessed. Reed was not just a man avenging a past humiliation. He was someone who had transformed through suffering. His voice carried the weight of someone who had endured, studied, and emerged not bitter, but stronger and more dangerous. That quiet delivery made the moment resonate even more powerfully than if he had shouted. It was the calm of a man who knew this was only the beginning. A new chapter for Reed, for Bronson. Reed, this night, marked the beginning of something bigger. He was no longer the overlooked powerhouse or the victim of Lesnar's brute force. In one night, he transitioned into a genuine main event contender, a man fans now viewed as capable of standing toe-to-toe with WWE's elite. Reed's rise had been fueled by resilience and preparation, but now it was legitimized by spectacle. His calculated revenge showed that he wasn't just another name on the roster, he was someone who could redefine how fans saw power and strategy inside the ring. For Reed, this was a new chapter, one in which he was no longer defined by his setbacks, but by his ability to overcome them with intelligence and determination. Lesnar's shattered aura. The consequences for Brock Lesnar were equally significant. His dominance had always depended on more than muscles. It thrived on intimidation, unpredictability, and the psychological weight of inevitability. But after Reed's shocking dismantling, that aura no longer carried the same force. Wrestlers who once stepped into the ring already half defeated by fear would now remember the night the Beast looked mortal. The image of Lesnar being humbled and left vulnerable changed his character in a way that even victories could not undo. For Lesnar, rebuilding that aura will be as difficult as any physical comeback. His opponents now know he can be caught off guard. and once that belief exists, it never truly fades. The legacy of the moment. Years from now, when fans look back on Bronson Reed's career, this will be the moment circled in bold. It wasn't just a revenge attack or a shocking Raw segment. It was the night Reed forced the entire WWE Universe to reevaluate him and Brock Lesnar alike. It reminded fans that in wrestling, reputations are never permanent, and stories can flip in an instant. For Reed, it was the spark that lit his career on fire. For Lesnar, it was the night his aura cracked. Together, they created a moment that will live on as one of the most unexpected and unforgettable reversals in WWE history.